So The Ritual, which is a British horror movie produced by Andy Serkis and The Imaginarium, which is his thing. So, hello, Andy. So the story is, at the opening sequence, we see Rafe Spall's Luke, a character played by Rafe Spall called Luke, Rafe Spall's Luke, and his friends are sort of planning a lad's trip. And it begins like they're on the set of an Edgar Wright movie, aging guys talking about the kind of trips that they used to do when they were younger. He goes into an off-licence with his mate Bob, and a robbery takes place in which Bob is killed, while basically Rafe Spall's character does nothing. This is all in the trailer. This is not a spoiler. Mm-hmm. We then cut to 6 months ahead to northern Sweden, when the rest of them are on a hiking holiday. And they are nominally going on this as a sort of bonding exercise and also to pay tribute to their lost friend. But they all have guilty secrets. The Rafe Spall character sort of essentially feels guilty and responsible for what happened to his friend. And it becomes quite apparent quite early on that his friends also harbour feelings that he carries a burden of responsibility. So they take all this guilt and all this unspoken backstory, which is very nicely hinted at, onto this camping trip. They realise they have to get a long way. Somebody hurts their leg. There's a wood. They decide, let's take a shortcut through a wood. Somebody says, there are no shortcuts. They're called routes, and if it's not a route, then it's not a shortcut. However, they decide to do it anyway. The next thing they know, they're in a, scary Blair Witch-style wood.
You could have probably told them that.
Exactly. There are animal carcasses hanging from the trees. The next thing, they arrive at an Evil Dead-style cabin, and they decide to go in. Here's a clip.
Well, this is clearly the house we'll get murdered in. It's not as bad as our uni accommodation.
That's the shape on the tree, I think.
Guys, this place is definitely abandoned, yeah?
Abandoned? It had moved in.
Whoever it was, they were packing. Look at that.
I don't like this place.
Not too keen on it myself, mate, but it's a lesser of two evils kind of situation.
Hutch, I definitely just heard something outside.
Well, maybe you did, Luke, here. We're not the only animals in the woods. Right, let's see if we can get this stove working. We'll need stuff to burn.
Like what?
Anything made of wood will do.
Is there a snowman outside? That's what it is. That's what's moving.
It's very good. So, whilst they're in the cabin, they all start to be afflicted by nightmares, and the nightmares seem to be connected to this sort of guilty past, this guilty secret, this thing which is eating away at their relationship, their friendship. The film nods to some very obvious reference points. I mentioned Blair Witch. There's a lot of Blair Witch. There's a lot of Evil Dead in there. I think you can also see The Wicker Man, Hills Have Eyes, a bit of Kill List, actually, Ben Wheatley's Kill List. And so the reference points are very familiar. But what I think it does rather well is that it manages the atmosphere, the bickering, the squabbling, the group dynamics well enough that when the things start to happen, you are invested in the characters. And it makes a very sensible decision to withhold its reveal until very late on. It's one of those horror movies which thinks that the sound of something terrifying happening off screen is often more terrifying than actually seeing something. And although the film does in the end fulfill its promise, it gives the horror fans what they need, it does withhold those things for as long as possible, which I thought was a very sensible decision. I thought it was made enthusiastically. The score lent this kind of growling, groaning, kind of weirdly off-kilter touch, which for me did work. It kind of cranked up the tension well. And I like the fact that although it's a comedy and there are, jokes in it between the guys joking around, it also understands that when it wants to do the horror, it wants to do the horror properly and it wants to do the horror seriously. And it kind of keeps that balance. It's a very, very hard balance to maintain. And heaven knows, we've all seen enough films which blend horror and comedy and lose the plot. I was impressed by it. I liked it. And as somebody who's seen lots and lots of horror films, I kind of expected to just think, okay, I have seen all of this before, but I thought it was well done and I thought it was enthusiastically played. And I enjoyed it.